Tell me a story about a time that you know that you saw something, but you don't ever tell this story because you know that no one would ever believe you.
Okay, I guess I'm up. Now, this is one of many stories that I've had happen to me that are really crazy, but definitely one of the things that have stayed with me for sure. Now, to give you guys a little bit of context, when I was younger, around 10 years old, we moved to Puerto Rico. Now, I lived there for a few years. I was with my mom, my dad, and my sister, and she had a boyfriend. Let's call him David. Now, David spoke really good English, and so did his family, so we all got along and we had a good relationship. He had a smaller brother that was my same age. His name was, let's call him Jimmy. Now, at that time, I didn't have many friends, and I was struggling because my Spanish wasn't very good, and he was one of my only friends that spoke English. Now, my sister dated him for multiple years, so I spent a lot of time with him and his family, and we were really close. We played video games all the time, and basically every time she went on a date with her boyfriend David, I was with Jimmy. Now, fast forward, obviously not all relationships last. They broke up, we moved back to Chicago, and that was that. And when we moved away, I had to be around 16 years old. Now, fast forward to when I was maybe like 23, 24, my sister calls me up and she's shook up and she was like, hey, I need to tell you something. I'm like, what? And she was like, Jimmy passed away. And I was stunned because I hadn't talked to him in a long time, obviously, because once my sister broke up with David, I was like, this would be weird to keep hanging out with him. Now, my sister's happily married now and she has kids and she has no contact with this guy, but they had a lot of mutual friends that they went to school with, and that's how she found out. Now, at the time, I was going through a lot of things. I was in a deep depression and I literally heard this and I fell apart because I just didn't know how to react. Now, obviously, since she found this out secondhand, she didn't have a lot of details, basically that it happened in a car and that it was instant. Now, I know that I hadn't seen him in so long, but it impacted me. I cried so much, and that night I went to sleep. And mind you, at that time, I was having a lot of weird nightmares, a lot of dreams, a lot of things that are completely separate to this. I can make a whole story about that. But that night, I dreamt with Jimmy. Now, I want to reiterate that I hadn't talked to this guy in a very, very long time, but I saw him as clearly as I can see my camera right now. And he came to me, he put his hand on my hand, and he showed me something. He showed me him in a car on the side of a highway, and he was with somebody in the car, and they were just stuck on the side of the freeway, and then he saw lights coming from behind him, and it's like he knew something was gonna happen. He put his hand on this person's hand and it was done. So it was like he was showing me what actually happened, and then he gave me this number and I was crying and hyperventilating, so I didn't remember really much of the dream until I woke up. I called my sister and I was like, oh my God, this is so crazy. I had this dream about Jimmy, and it was like he was actually there telling me what happened. Now, fast forward a couple weeks, all of my family got together and we were talking about the situation, and I was like, oh, Jennifer, which is my sister's name, I was like, hey, I had that dream and I remembered a number and I put it down in my notes app to tell you to see if you know what the number is. I don't remember what it was because it was many years ago. It had to be at least 10 years ago now. And I gave her the number and she gasped. And I was like, what is it? And she's like, I just looked it up. And all the details that you gave me is actually how he passed away. And that number you gave me is the zip code of where he was when he passed away. He wasn't in Puerto Rico anymore. After something happened with Hurricane Maria, they left Puerto Rico and he was staying somewhere else. And that's the exact zip code of where he was. Now, I was literally shocked. I had no idea. And I've had dreams that are similar to this, that, I kind of see things, and I just thought I was tripping. And that moment has stayed with me forever. My sister and I still talk about it to this day. I asked her permission to talk about this because obviously that was something that was crazy that happened a long time ago. But yeah, that's my crazy story.